All right, welcome back to my weekly breakdown. Before we get started, I have to address the incredible reception from my last video. The feedback was just phenomenal, so overwhelmingly supportive, that it absolutely solidified my decision to continue with this weekly ranking format. Seriously, if you haven't seen the comment section, go take a look. The positivity and encouragement are just incredible. People are telling me what a fantastic job I'm doing, and that just makes me think, all right, everyone, you've convinced me. I'm absolutely sticking with this tier system. Now, as those who follow me know, I don't do my rankings the conventional way. My approach is fundamentally different. This isn't about forecasting future performance. It has no connection to how a team looked in week 1, 3, 5, or 10. This is exclusively about the quality of a team's performance in the most recent week. That's the entire focus. It's about evaluating the caliber of their play, looking at every squad with a completely fresh perspective each and every week. You can use historical context as a minor reference point, like, did a team desperately need a victory? Are they recovering from a devastating loss? But just because you secured a blowout win doesn't automatically catapult you to the summit. Conversely, a loss doesn't necessarily mean a precipitous fall. There are numerous elements in the mix. It's a complex, multifaceted picture. Actually, it's a rich tapestry, but one you're observing with brand new eyes every single time. So, without any further preamble, let's dive right in. At the absolute base of the mountain, we find the Cincinnati Bengals and the Minnesota Vikings. I am already second-guessing this placement. Errors in judgment were certainly made here, resulting in a situation as chaotic as a cat tangled in a blanket. I'm not even entirely sure what that image conveys, but it feels appropriate. Oh man, the Bengals and the Vikings. The Bengals and the Vikings. It's a painful refrain. Everything seemed so promising for them not long ago. Cincinnati was anticipating the return of Joe Burrow. Even with Jake Flacco under center, they were showing some sparks. They were in a position to compete, even outlasting the Steelers. There was a sense of, hey, we can pull this off. We can make a run. And then, suddenly, they cannot. They simply cannot. One of their core leaders, a player who is supposed to be a pillar of the franchise, especially in Burrow's absence, Jamar Chase, makes a decision to spit in an opponent's face and gets suspended. That single act of indiscipline directly contributed to a loss. They could have kept their playoff hopes alive. They could have realistically remained in the postseason conversation. It was their own actions that undid them. They made critical mistakes. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings. Oh, brother, their situation was so enviable just a short while ago. They were accumulating victories. Sam Darnold was playing exceptionally well. The entire atmosphere was positive. It felt terrific. Justin Jefferson was dominating. Now, your quarterback posts a stat line of 87 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 34.2, while being sacked 5 times on just 12 pressures. That's a pressure-to-sack percentage of 41.7%. The outlook is not positive. It's genuinely concerning. The team actually demonstrates an ability to run the ball effectively, but then they inexplicably abandon the ground game. Someone in the comments previously argued, well, they were trailing, that's why they couldn't run. But you're not down by multiple touchdowns from the opening whistle, and establishing the run is certainly a more viable strategy than whatever product they put on the field. They managed only 6 points. Numerous teams play from behind and still commit to their rushing attack. You weren't losing by 30 points. So it was just poor, fundamentally unsound football across the board. Terrible decision-making. It's clear that J.J. McCarthy isn't quite prepared for this level. You had Sam Darnold and even Daniel Jones available. You could have maintained some positive momentum, allowing McCarthy to develop and learn without being thrown into the fire. Poor choices were made, significant errors in judgment. And now we ascend to the next level. We can all be thankful we are not the New Orleans Saints. Joining them in this tier are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Carolina Panthers, and the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, I am aware the Falcons won with Kirk Cousins. You're building momentum. You're finally getting something positive going. You did it against the Saints. But let's be clear, the Saints are abysmal. The Saints are a terrible football team. Every aspect of their operation is subpar. There's just not much else to analyze there. As for the Panthers, you had a genuine opportunity. Brock Purdy was practically handing you the game, saying, "You want an interception? Here you go, friend. Oh, you want one as well? Let me see if I have another football. Here, take this interception. I think I've got one more in me. Yes, definitely. Just a moment, pal. I've got you covered. Here's another one." In the first half alone, you could have been leading by 14 points. You could have been up by 21. Instead, you were behind. And when you had a chance to score a touchdown, Bryce Young essentially said, "Oh, don't worry. I don't want the 49ers to feel excluded." So, he throws an interception to them as well. You could have simply run the ball into the end zone. You could have actually taken the lead in the division. You could have been the front runner. It could have been you. It should have been you. Then we have the Buccaneers. Oh, how the mighty have stumbled. Things were looking so promising. I had expressed some skepticism, admitting I wasn't fully sold on the Buccaneers or Baker Mayfield. Now their performance has dipped, the injury bug is biting, and Baker Mayfield is playing hurt. Now, if he performs poorly, I can't even criticize him too harshly, because he's clearly not at full health. This team is battered, and then you get demolished, 34-7. Again, the only consolation is that you are not the Saints. The Buccaneers can still technically win the division. If they can manage to stay competitive, they can still be a pesky opponent. But with Baker's shoulder issue, it's unknown how much it will affect him throughout the season, or how easily it could be re-aggravated. The Panthers could still theoretically win this division, but I mean, these three teams? At least you're not the Saints. At least you can say that. As we continue our climb, we encounter a section reminiscent of the red panda lady you see at halftime shows, balanced on a unicycle while spinning plates. Have you ever watched her? It's mesmerizing. I used to see her often at Warriors games. Well, we have a full-blown circus in this tier. It's an absolute three-ring spectacle. The Jacksonville Jaguars have to be one of the most perplexingly comical teams out there. They are incapable of securing receptions. Trevor Lawrence has finally been facing a normal, average amount of pressure. Nothing extraordinary, just a standard NFL pass rush, and he still takes 3 sacks and throws 3 interceptions, while his receivers added 3 dropped passes. They required overtime to defeat a team led by Jacoby Brissett. Frankly, Jacoby Brissett was the more effective quarterback in that contest. Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm at a loss. You are like a team straight out of a cartoon right now. A literal cartoon. The San Francisco 49ers faced the Carolina Panthers. Their defense was stellar, largely because Bryce Young is just an average quarterback. Brock Purdy did not perform well at all. However, they've been navigating a myriad of injuries and constant roster shuffling, so you have to afford them some benefit of the doubt. They are juggling numerous challenges simultaneously. Now, people are already questioning whether they want Mac Jones back in the lineup. What is happening? Then, the Baltimore Ravens. You're constantly managing Lamar Jackson's health. There's a disconcerting fragility to Lamar currently that makes everyone uncomfortable. This is not the dynamic, explosive Lamar we know. It just doesn't feel right. A 56.5% completion rate, 153 yards, 0 touchdowns, and thankfully 0 interceptions this time. He was only pressured 8 times, so it wasn't as if he was under constant assault. He posted a 76.9 passer rating. It just feels off. But time will tell. Hopefully, he can regain his form, get healthier, and they can return to being the team we expect them to be. The Buffalo Bills. It seems that unless Josh Allen is perfect, unless he is absolutely flawless, unless he can be Superman, this team has no chance. This man was under relentless pressure and was sacked 8 times. He had nowhere to escape. His offensive line was completely overwhelmed. And the Bills just seemed to accept a loss to the Texans. It's fine. No big deal. We'll drop a game we were expected to win. We'll let Davis Mills orchestrate a game-winning drive. We can't even stop Davis Mills. No problem. The Indianapolis Colts, you should have defeated the Kansas City Chiefs. You positively had that victory secured. It was in your grasp. You just needed Daniel Jones to produce anything in the 4th quarter. Anything at all. A single first down. A modest gain. He could not do it. They simply could not do it. You just needed Jonathan Taylor to break off a long run, to reassure everyone, it's all right, guys, I've got this. They could not do it. It required every trick in Shane Steichen's playbook just to obtain that lead. You were even gifted a terrible interception from Patrick Mahomes. It was a great defensive play, but a terrible decision by Mahomes. You had it. The win was yours. You demonstrated you couldn't finish the job. The Detroit Lions needed Jahmyr Gibbs to amass nearly 300 all-purpose yards and a 59-yard field goal in overtime to defeat Jameis Winston and the New York Giants, who ran one of the most absurd trick plays I've ever witnessed. It was so poorly conceived and executed, and yet it still resulted in Jameis Winston catching a touchdown pass where he had to make the reception and then lumber into the end zone. It wasn't even a simple catch in the end zone. It was just sheer madness. Gibbs was an absolute force of nature, but my goodness, what a stressful performance. Then, the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by Mason Rudolph, were in a position to win their game. This defense is supposed to be elite. That defense, aside from TJ Watt making a few nice plays, was just, I don't know, man. I don't know. They didn't really slow down the opponent effectively. The Bears' defense was the unit creating turnovers with interceptions and strip sacks. They simply felt more potent, more aggressive, more violent than what the Steelers displayed. I still cannot comprehend the play calling in crucial moments. You could kick a field goal, but they said, no, let's not. Then they execute a brilliant trick play that works perfectly and essentially leads to a touchdown. But then you have Mason Rudolph on the opening drive throwing a deep 50-50 ball that gets intercepted. I just don't understand what the plan is. I genuinely do not know what you are doing. So this entire group is that lady on the unicycle, balancing a dozen plates, kicking them up with her feet, and catching them on her head. That's what you all are. Every single one of you. Next, we have the little engine that could. I think I can. Chug, chug, chug. That always makes me think of the movie Major Pain. If you haven't seen it, go watch Major Pain. The little engine that could scene is fantastic. Damon Wayans at his absolute best. This tier is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, man. If you could just get that offense synchronized, if you could just find some continuity, consistency, sustainability, whatever term you prefer, if you can locate that missing ingredient, you would instantly revert to being a true, bona fide Super Bowl contender. You should be leading the NFL as the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Because you're the little engine that could. It's a constant, can you? Then, the New England Patriots with Drake May. Let's be perfectly clear. This team has been playing tremendous, elite-level defense. They have many great pieces. But the entire burden rests on the shoulders of Drake May. It's all about, brother, how elite are you going to be, and how quickly can you manifest it? Going up against the Bengals, yes, he threw a pick six, but he also made some breathtakingly beautiful throws. I have a video coming out later today highlighting one of the most gorgeous passes you will ever see. This is the central question. Can Drake May do it? Can he guide the Patriots back to relevance? The Green Bay Packers? Look, the game becomes pretty straightforward when you're facing a quarterback who can't even surpass 90 passing yards, with 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I do believe this was a solid game by the Packers, but given the circumstances, it is what it is. I just thought it was a smart, disciplined performance. They understood their offensive objectives and simply executed them. It was simple, straightforward football. They weren't attempting anything overly elaborate. And then the Bears, taking down the Steelers and Mason Rudolph. I continue to be profoundly impressed with Ben Johnson's offensive system. There's a specific flow to their games that I've highlighted repeatedly, which truly showcases the momentum-building potential this team possesses. They generated a strip sack on Mason Rudolph when the Steelers were in field goal range to tie the game, or even driving to take the lead. Instead, they force a fumble, recover it, and on the very next play, Caleb Williams launches a perfect strike to a wide-open Moore, immediately positioning them inside the 35-yard line. It was an instantaneous, dramatic momentum swing. You were on the verge of tying or leading the game, and instead, we force a turnover and immediately connect on a huge offensive play. It was flawless execution on defense, offense, play calling, and throwing, a beautiful sequence. The Kansas City Chiefs. I originally had them positioned higher, but I decided to move them down one notch. I do believe this was a very impressive and obviously crucial victory for the Chiefs. I think they did an excellent job of disrupting the Colts' rhythm. However, this game highlighted the limitations of Daniel Jones more than anything else, from my perspective. The Colts should have won that game. But this was also a case of the Chiefs making the essential plays when it mattered most, simply hanging around long enough to capitalize. If you give the Chiefs an opportunity to linger, they'll gladly take it, thinking, okay, if you don't want to close this out, we'll happily accept the win. It was a significant, crucial, important win for Kansas City. But I still feel that, while watching, the primary takeaway was that the Colts lost that game more than the Chiefs won it. So, I have the Chiefs one tier lower, but it was undoubtedly a great win for them. And now, at the very summit, we have what I'm calling the Super Bowl champions. This group includes the Dallas Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks, the Houston Texans, and the Los Angeles Rams. They all share a connection to the Super Bowl. Allow me to elucidate. The Dallas Cowboys. This is a true phenomenon I discovered while reviewing my notes. Every single time they win a game, they subsequently win the Super Bowl. It's insane. I didn't even know this was statistically possible. but they actually win the Super Bowl with every victory. It's remarkable. Whether they're defeating the Raiders, the Eagles, or the Giants, it's irrelevant. With every win, they are Super Bowl champions. All joking aside, this was a fantastic win by the Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles, demonstrating their resilience and defensive improvements. But to me, it also highlights a previous misstep in how they constructed their defense. They could have built this team into a legitimate, bona fide Super Bowl contender right now, especially if it was all part of some master plan by Jerry Jones to move on from Mike McCarthy. But if that was the case, they could have done it before the draft. Drafted immediate impact players, gotten the ball rolling earlier, or flipped picks for established talent. They could have taken actions to make this defense significantly better sooner, which would have made them a superior team earlier in the season and a true contender at this very moment. That's just the reality. The Houston Texans. This defense is so phenomenal, so dominant, so unbelievably good. If you could just get the offense to perform with even a modicum of consistency, oh my goodness, you are a bona fide Super Bowl contender. Yes, you absolutely are. You are a legitimate threat. You just haven't figured out the offensive side of the ball currently. Yes, you beat the Buffalo Bills, and it was a great win, but it was a defensive masterpiece more than an offensive showcase. The Buffalo Bills' defense is not particularly good by any measure, but that DeMeco Ryans-led defense is legendary. It is something truly special. The Seattle Seahawks. This was an ostensibly easy win. You all know how I feel about clean, straightforward victories. I could have easily placed the Seahawks and Rams lower, but they both executed nearly perfect, clean games, and considering the overall landscape right now, the Seahawks are a legitimate, true, bona fide Super Bowl contender. There's no maybe or they're pretty good. No, they are a legitimate contender. That offense can score on any defense, and that defense can disrupt any offense. They are brilliant and formidable on both sides of the ball. The question is, can Sam Darnold be the one to get it done? We will find out. Then the Los Angeles Rams. That game was not even remotely competitive. I believe I was listening to someone like John Middlecoff, who said the game was effectively over within the first 5 minutes. Matthew Stafford, facing this Todd Bowles defense that is supposed to be great at generating pressure and blitzes, was pressured only 6 times. That was the lowest figure in the NFL for the week. Just 6 times. He was throwing to wide-open receivers all afternoon. 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a passer rating of 122.7. I know Baker Mayfield was injured, but even with him in the game, it felt hopeless for Tampa. There was a fluky interception, but credit to the Rams for being opportunistic and capitalizing on it. It was a heads-up play. A bizarre, almost accidental turnover from Baker and the Bucs, but the Rams seized the moment. This is precisely why I prefer conducting my tiers in this manner. It allows me to place teams like the Cowboys and Texans at the apex, while adjusting the Chiefs and Eagles accordingly. Every time I compile these rankings, I look at the final list and ponder how optimistic or pessimistic I want to be. It's challenging because you can construct a compelling argument that the Bears' win was monumental, or the Chiefs' victory was huge, and they deserve a top spot. You can always twist the narrative. So when I'm evaluating, I focus on a central question. What is the defining characteristic of this team's performance? For the Jaguars, it was the inability to catch the ball, the interceptions, and needing overtime. For the Lions, it was an exciting, awesome win that was fantastic to watch. But you also realize they needed nearly 300 total yards from one player, Jahmyr Gibbs, and still required a long touchdown run in overtime to secure it. It's not meant to be an overly serious scientific analysis. Yet, based on the comments I read, people still struggle with this concept. They still have difficulty. Rams fans were having a meltdown because Matthew Stafford wasn't at the very top. Doing these tiers this way is a stark reminder that many people struggle to view things through a different lens and cannot comprehend varying levels of nuance. It honestly makes me laugh when I read some of these comments and see what people have to say, because they just can't quite grasp the methodology. It's pretty amusing. I once had Jameis Winston at the top over someone like Stafford, and they couldn't accept it. It's like, guys, do you understand what Jameis Winston was thrown into? He was pulling off trick plays, going toe-to-toe with the Lions as a backup quarterback, pressured 17 times, and literally catching a touchdown pass himself. That's a top-of-the-mountain performance for that week, whereas Stafford had an incredibly easy, stress-free day. They just want their guy at the top. Or when I had Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott in a high tier after a fantastic divisional duel where both quarterbacks showed up and played brilliantly, some fans couldn't wrap their heads around it. It's just funny that there are different ways of analyzing performance. So that is the operational principle behind these tiers. It is obviously not a reflection of the official standings. It's also not simply a power ranking of who the best teams are. It is a snapshot. What happened this previous week? How impressive was the victory? How damaging was the loss? What was the overall quality of play? And that's it. Those are my reflections. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think? Did I discuss the Philadelphia Eagles? I believe I did, right? I was just going through the Chiefs and then glanced back and thought, wait a second, did I cover the Eagles? I'm pretty sure I did. I talked about their offensive struggles in the second half, how they couldn't get anything going. Okay, if I didn't, I've already spoken about them extensively, so you know my thoughts. The Eagles are in that little engine that could category. I'm almost certain I went on a rant about their need for offensive consistency. I'm doubting myself now. I'll have to double-check the recording. But those are my perspectives. I would absolutely love to hear yours. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or vehemently disagree, let's get some discussions going. Let's get into some friendly fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun with it. Please consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become a part of it. I want to create something we all feel genuinely connected to, something we're truly excited to be involved with. I believe we are well on our way to achieving that. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely helps with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next time.